All right. Welcome to Here's My Thing. I'm your host, Frankie Salazar, and oh boy, do I have a good one for you today. But there is something I want to talk about because there's a new addition to the show. Look, we now have an LED sign. Isn't that beautiful? It says, Here's My Thing, which is pretty fitting because that is the title of my show. But what I really want to talk about is how I'm really trying to start a trend here, really set the precedence, right? Because, nobody else really has LED, signs hanging up in their podcast. I pretty much am starting this trend. So, just so you know, I'm starting a trend here. I've always been a trendsetter. Guys, don't stress me out about it. But no, in all actuality, I'm very late to the party. And that's all right because this makes me official. But I am waiting on one more edition, if you could take a guess as to what it might be, because USPS done lost my package. And it's pissing me off because every day I go to check the mail lady scurries off and speeds off in her little truck thing like I'm about to stab her or something. And all I'm wondering is where my package went because it was $30 for a mug. That's it. But anyways, enough of my little bit of a tirade. For those of you who saw my first two episodes, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know I already said it on my Instagram and everything like that, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get right in to the stories. I want to start this off by talking about someone that's a little bit controversial on this show. Because as you know, here on the show, Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar, we are barbs, okay? We made that very clear in our very first episode, all right? But the person I want to talk about is none other than Lil' Kim. Now, Lil' Kim, I want to go ahead and thank her. Sincerely, I really do. I want to thank her because here on the show, we've talked about the California wildfires and all the celebrities and all their efforts and assistance and everything. Lil' Kim thought that she was doing her part by donating all the proceeds that she'd received from her album called 9. Now, for those of you who don't know 9, and by those of you that don't know, I mean everyone, because I didn't even know she had another album out. It released back in October of 2019, right before all the COVID madness had happened, and sold less than 1,000 copies in the United States. In fact, it didn't even chart on the Billboard 200. So, I would like to thank Lil' Kim for her sincere donation of $25. But what I really do want to say, though, is that she somehow made it even worse. Because after she'd made her donation, she took to Instagram to say, and I quote, "I pray to Jesus that God makes it a monsoon in California." I mean, you really can't even make this stuff up. Now, I do know that she means well personally, but you know the internet, they ripped her head off because a monsoon, technically, is still another natural disaster. And as we all know, California suffers with not only droughts, but they're suffering with the wildfire now. So the last thing they need right now is a monsoon. But she was hoping, that it just started raining. So that way the Californian wildfires can be kind of kept at bay. I get it. So then, while the fans were ripping her head off on Twitter, she took the Google AI generated definition of a monsoon, showing that it's just a, kind of a weather change where, it kind of, brings onset of rain and everything like that, and screenshotted it to her Twitter saying, and I quote, "Any questions now?" Now, here's my thing on that. Like I said earlier, the internet has a really bad sense of humor, and they also take things at face value. They don't like to really look into things or try to see what people's intentions were, and I think that really sucks. So I want to go ahead and play the devil's advocate here for Lil' Kim, even though I am a barb. Okay, relax. Put your guns down. I do want to give Lil' Kim some grace because I know what she meant by a monsoon. Give her a break. Now, is her donating $25 any good? Who's to say? It did come from her album sales, but Nicki Minaj, who sold more than 2,000 times that amount on her most recent release, has yet to donate $1. So, Nicki, we're keeping our eyes on you. I know you did send your condolences on Twitter, but last I checked, condolences on Twitter do not pay the bills. Up next, Donald Trump. By the time this video comes out, we're shooting here on Sunday morning. Technically, it's pretty much midnight now. We're shooting January 19th, when the TikTok ban had taken effect. But by the time this video comes out, it will have been well past Monday, January 20th, when Donald Trump is going to be our new president for the second time. Now, this has a lot of people in a stir. Now, no matter where you stand politically in America, we can all agree that American politics, since he got into it over 8 years ago, has been a complete joke. Okay, I'm pretty sure we can all agree on that. But I do want to talk about some celebrities that seem to be a little extra peeved and even want to flee the country. First up, we have Oprah. Oprah Winfrey, the Oprah Winfrey, said that she is now going to flee the country. So I got to thinking, well, if Oprah wants to leave the country, where could she go? Well, the Canadians seem like very nice people. Maybe she can go to Canada. Oh, wait, Donald Trump wants to take Canada and make it the 51st state. Well, so now that that's out of the way, where else could she go? Greenland. She could go to Greenland. It's beautiful out there, so icy, and from what I hear, the people are also very nice, just like the Canadians up north. Oh wait, Trump wants to use military force to steal that too. Then when he was asked about how much it would cost, given Greenland's recent valuation of over $1 trillion, a news reporter had asked Trump how he intends to pay for it, or if he even intends to pay for it, and Trump said that it should be, quote, free. Now, this begs the question, though. Just because Trump wants to take it, does that mean that their governments and their people also want to join the United States forces? Spoiler alert, no. No, they do not. They do not want to. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little footage up just to prove that. So take it away, Greenlanders.
Mr. Trump, off. Dear President Trump, listen very carefully. Greenland has been part of the Danish kingdom for 800 years. It's an integrated part of our country. It is not for sale. Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, off.
Now, despite having Oprah Winfrey being all in a stir about it, Snoop Dogg, Snoop D-O-G-G, has now had a new turn on his opinion on Donald Trump because he was spotted performing at Trump's inaugural pretty much party. I don't even know what else you could call it, inaugural event or whatever. He and Nelly are said to perform at his personal inauguration at the White House just tomorrow, January 20th. And Snoop Dogg and Donald Trump have a little bit of a rickety past. Snoop Dogg in the past has criticized Donald Trump when he overtook the presidency and even made a song or even had like kind of like a little bit of an excerpt of where he was making fun of Trump's MAGA, Make America Great Again, with a song or a line titled Make America Crip Again. And he was very outspoken about Donald Trump's presidency, but over the past couple of years, or I guess months you could say, he had a little bit of a softer heart when it came to Donald Trump and now wants to perform a live event. This caused a lot of stir on Twitter, particularly with Snoop Dogg's fans, because they look at him as a backstabber and said that Tupac was, quote, right about him. Now, here's my thing. Snoop Dogg is a pimp, okay? He's a G. He could do quite literally whatever he wants, and I don't know a single soul on the planet that's going to do anything about it. And I personally fell in love with Snoop Dogg because how could we forget about his brand new, seems out of thin air friendship with Martha Stewart over the past couple of years, ever since she got out of prison and he started doing television specials with her. In another episode here shortly, we're also going to talk about the new Martha Stewart documentary that came out on Netflix just not too long ago. Snoop Dogg also recently, with the help of Dr. Dre, brought back to life the original crooners from the 50s and 60s, including my favorite, as you all know, none other than Frank Sinatra.
Tell those guys we'd like to meet them.
Are you sure?
Frank.
Snoop. Sammy. Dre.
Still Jim for everybody.
Snoop Dogg is also a judge on the show X Factor, because now after he did his whole pimp gangster lifestyle. He kind of wants to hone in on more homely television personality-esque kind of side quests right now. I don't really know what he's up to, but he is a judge on the show X Factor. And for those of you who don't know the show X Factor, that's where people go and sing and you just listen to their voices blindly because the chairs are turned on their backs. Snoop tends to be in a little bit of a disagreement, kind of like a tug-of-war with none other than Michael Bublé when it comes to people singing Frank Sinatra, Bobby Darin, Dean Martin, and people of that kind. So Snoop does have a deep appreciation for that kind of music, and ever since I found that out, Snoop has been kind of one of my favorite people. So no matter where you stand politically, he's doing his thing. Up next, the TikTok ban was upheld, unfortunately, by the Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision, which means they all unanimously decided to uphold the ban on TikTok, citing it as constitutional. The ban was constitutional. It did not interfere with our First Amendment rights. Now, I don't really know what that means. I think it's quite literally a direct attack on our freedoms as Americans and our First Amendment. And I would like to think that the domestic issue here, with Facebook and Instagram and all these people who literally openly admitted to stealing information and even tapping into our microphones and cameras in our own house, is more of a threat. Now, despite the Supreme Court upholding the decision to ban TikTok, there are a lot of people and a lot of politicians in Congress who are trying to fight it. Now, originally, Trump did pioneer the TikTok ban because his whole campaign when he ran the first time was China, 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 okay? China's bad. We got to get rid of it. And it just doesn't make sense that now he wants to turn around and flip it. But even he is smart enough to know that Gen Z are really the people that put him into office the second time. Whether we like it or not, that's the truth. And now he wants to bring TikTok back. But besides Donald Trump himself, he said that he was going to sign, starting tomorrow, January 20th, an executive order to give TikTok a 90-day extension before the ban has to take effect. Now, unfortunately, TikTok, as of today, had went ahead and banned them, taken themselves off the platform preemptively before the government even enforced it, saying that they are grateful for the progress and the help and assistance that Trump is going to give them during this time. Now, before the Supreme Court had made their final ruling, the Biden administration had gone ahead and said, well, we don't know what to do. We're putting the ball in Trump's court as to what to do with TikTok. But Biden's administration did say that they were not going to legally hold TikTok or any of its other co-founders or anything like that, or any other social media platform that was going to host the app. They weren't going to uphold any sort of restitution or fines or anything like that, which was originally what Congress was going after. They were going to slam them with a ridiculous amount of fines, and Biden said, we just won't uphold that. So that kind of pissed off Biden's administration a little bit because TikTok is now going ahead and taking the extra step to remove themselves just one day before Trump gets into the office to try to make it look like, in Biden's words, a stunt to make Trump look like the savior, the good guy, for bringing TikTok back. Now, other politicians, like Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts and Ro Khanna of California, have kind of pioneered the movement to keep TikTok where it is before the ban had even taken place. Senator Ed Markey and Ro Khanna had tried to use something called a unanimous consent. And that's where Congress and the senators all pretty much vote on the bill unanimously. And if everyone but one person votes yes, TikTok gets to stay. Well, unfortunately for us, Senator Tom Cotton was the one bastard who chose to vote against it. So I'm pretty sure we all know who's getting voted out next time. On a little bit of a lighter news, Shrek 5 and Ice Age 6 are in the works. How fun is that? And this is just in time because for those of you who tuned into my very first video, the donkey from Shrek named Perry, or at least the donkey that donkey from Shrek was based on, as we already covered, had tragically passed away. But, like I said, I did find his replacement just in time for the next season. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is fast food in America. Okay? It is getting absolutely insane. From the Grand Mac that we had a few years back, to the Triple Baconator, to the Flying Dutchman secret menu item at In-N-Out, to the chicken wings being sold at none other than Taco Bell, America has seemed to be on a downhill slope when it comes to our health and our fast food. Just take a look at this image that I have on screen now. People are making their own secret menu item where they order 2 hash browns from the McDonald's breakfast menu, as well as an Oreo McFlurry to make their own hash brown ice cream sandwich. Now that looks utterly disgusting, in my opinion, and it's just awful. But something that does look delicious is what Wendy's just announced. Wendy's, in collaboration with the Girl Scouts of America, is making none other than a thin mint Frosty. Oh my God. For those of you who don't know, I used to be humongous. Like when I say humongous, I mean like humongous. Like breaking furniture when I sat down, humongous. Okay? I literally was going to be on the next season of My 600-Pound Life. I was supposed to fly to Texas to meet with that doctor that's like, honey, you got a lot of weight to lose. Maybe you should stop eating. But fortunately for that doctor, I lost the weight on my own. Now, in all seriousness, I was absolutely nowhere near 600 pounds, but I was upwards of the middle, low to mid 300s. And I am actually down over 130 pounds from my heaviest, if you couldn't tell from the picture beside me. I'm literally just imagining it. Obviously, I'm putting the picture in and editing, but I'm going to keep this clip in here because I just can't help but chuckle when I look back at what I used to look like. But what I do want to say is that the Thin Mint Frosty is going to get me back to there. So if you guys see that I'm putting on a little bit more weight each and every episode, just know who's to blame. I also want to say for the record that secret menu item of the hash brown ice cream sandwich monstrosity originated in none other than Australia. Now, when I think of Australians, I think that they're pretty thin. Like every time there's an Australian in like a movie, they are stunning. Isn't Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie Australian, if I'm not wrong? I mean, don't quote me on it. But every time I've seen an Australian, even if they're not Australian, the Australians in the movies are absolutely jacked or gorgeous and very thin. And I don't know how these people could have concocted that idea. But then again, these are the same people that call McDonald's Maccas. So take that with what you will. All right. To wrap this up, our final story is absolutely crazy. And thank God I got the footage of it and downloaded it before the TikTok ban because that's where I found it. A 76-year-old grandmother of the girl who was recording the TikTok is pregnant. I absolutely couldn't believe it when I heard it. So, I was just scrolling through TikTok one day, minding my business as one does on the For You page, and I stumbled across this 76-year-old pregnant grandmother. I still don't believe it. I don't know if it's a stunt. Granted, she was in the hospital and the nurse came in. Now, the comments were saying things like, oh, that nurse lost a bet, or what kind of prank is this? I'm really hoping that it's not true, but maybe it is. So I take to the comments to see what other people are saying, and none other than my mother is there, who says, I'm writing this to stay updated because this is crazy, LOL, or something to that effect. And I put, me too, Mom, me too. Now, for those of you who would like to keep updated with the story, you can go ahead and find their YouTube channel in the link that I'll put in the description. But I do want to point out that over here on the bottom of the screen, I went ahead and put the caption because they asked us to stay tuned to find out what the gender is when they do their gender reveal and to find out who the baby daddy is. So, if there's any more developments, just know we'll be covering it on the show because this is crazy. Now, the crazy part about this is this would be a Guinness World Record breaking birth. As of now, the oldest woman who ever gave birth in history happened in 2019 through IVF. The woman's name was Aramati Mangama, or at least I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She gave birth in 2019 at the ripe age of 73 years old. So the woman that we're talking about from the TikTok video that we're all going to be following on YouTube is 76. So she would break the Guinness World Record by 3 years. Now, another interesting fact is the woman that gave birth naturally was at the age of 59. That woman's name was Dawn Brooks, and that delivery happened back in 1997. So these are all absolutely crazy stories, and I don't know how these women's bodies are going to handle, but is the TikTok grandmother going to be the one to break the world record? Who knows? Now, here's my thing. What is a 76-year-old grandma doing to be getting it on? Okay? And what gentleman is going to give a 76-year-old grandma a child? Now, that just goes to show you that the fun don't stop, even when you get older. Because if you're anything like me, the thought of your grandparents getting it on is kind of something you don't really want to think about. But this woman is literally pregnant. Now, just to give you a little bit of a history of my family tree, my great-grandmother and her mother, so my great-great-grandmother, were pregnant at the same time over 20 years apart. So my family tree is absolutely insane because I have uncles who are younger than my grandfather who are my great-great-uncles, if you're with me. Okay? So I could only imagine this person's family tree when this woman is 76 years old getting creamed on the side. Okay? And that's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode of Here's My Thing, Season 1, Episode 3. It was an absolute blast. And as we go along more, we're going to have better stories. But as you know, I would love to hear your thing. So go ahead and sound off in the comments of wherever you're seeing this video or this clip and let me know. Is there something you want me to talk about? Did I offend you in any way? Do you agree with me on some of the things we talked about? Regardless of what it is, I would love to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, as we continue and get the snowball rolling, we might be able to have a few guests on the show. So, as always, stay tuned. This has been Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar, and I will see you in the next one.